Hey guys, Moises with Luis's Butcher Shop. We are going to do something special today. To kick off our YouTube channel, we're going to break down a chuck Primal. USDA Prime, of course, because here at the shop, we like to work with quality. Alright guys, so you can get some orientation on how this thing is laid out. This is where the head would normally be. This is your foreshank. And this right here is the breast muscle, which we all know as a brisket. Alright guys, as you can tell, I flipped this bad boy over, so we are going to start working from the inside. First thing, we're going to remove our chuck ribs, then the sternum. We're going to get rid of some of this fat and get rid of this chain meat. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ribs. The split between the chuck and the ribeye always occurs between the 5th and the 6th rib. In between here, you have cartilage, so that's what we're going to saw through right now. Now, as I'm sawing, I'm pushing down on the sternum. You can tell you cut through the bone when you feel that pulling of the meat. And now we go to this side. So I'm going to get a square cut chuck rib. Okay, so now that we got a square cut, I'm going to start cutting the serratus ventralis muscle, which is the muscle that makes up the short rib, okay? So I'm cutting, and I'm cutting through red, but the moment I start to see white, that's when I know I've gone completely through the muscle and I need to stop cutting. It's like a surgeon with the scalpel. Very, very gently, because you don't want to hit the other muscles. So here you get a close-up of how this cut was done. Here you see the serratus ventralis muscle, or the chuck rib muscle, and you see I kept cutting until I hit white. So the layer of fat is your boundary. So now I'm going to get under that muscle and pull the chuck rib off. So you can tell where the seam is, and just get right under there. So now I've gone ahead and exposed the seam that separates the chuck ribs from the rest of the chuck. And all we do is with my left hand, I got it well hooked in. I pull, and with the knife, I work that seam. You see this bad boy peel off very nicely, like a web. Nice. Being careful not to hit anything important. So now it's time to take off the sternum. For those barbecue guys out there that like eating brisket a lot, this is that hard fat that comes under the brisket, so may be very recognizable. Same thing. Got the brisket under, so I have to be very careful. That's it, that's your sternum. I'm gonna go ahead now and remove the chuck roll, which is this piece right here. But before I do that, I have to clean some of this up and I gotta remove the neck bones. Alright, time to separate the chuck roll. So the same thing, You're gonna cut straight down, expose that seam right here, and then we're gonna cut under. Then we're gonna roll this bad boy off this table. Expose that seam. Use a little bit of your body weight. Nice. As I'm cutting, I'm pulling back with my left hand, exposing that seam. Okay, now that I'm clear of all the muscles under the chuck, it's time to cut through. So now I'm going to debone the chuck. This is what's left of the vertebrae and what's left of the chuck ribs. So before I break down this bad boy, we're gonna get a cut out of it that you don't get to see here in the States very much, but it's very popular in Latin America. It's the azotillo, also referred to as the cojote. So this right here is your azotillo or cojote. Okay, so now we're gonna break apart our chuck roll. We got two pieces we're gonna work with here. Your chuck eye, which is essentially the extension of the rib eye. Rib eyes go here, and then the chuck eye starts going this way. So here you got your spinalis, your longissimus, and your complexus. So now we're gonna separate our chuck eye from the underblade roast. There we go. We're gonna break apart the seam right here. Nice and easy. And most of these muscles can be seamed out. You just gotta know where to cut and avoid hitting muscles. It's always a big thing. You know what I mean? By extension, the ribeye looks like a ribeye, doesn't it? Nice and easy. So here is your chuck underblade roast, and this is your chuck eye roast. From here we can go on and cut Denver steaks, which are exceptionally tender, or even better, we can continue to cut steaks out of the chuck eye, which, remember, it's an extension of that rib eye, and these bad boys are very, very tender and delicious. Now, what you barbecue guys have been waiting for, we're gonna remove the brisket, also known as the pastrón or tapa de asado. Next thing we're gonna do right here is we're gonna pull out this muscle right here, the teres major. After that, we're gonna do this bad boy right here, the chuck underblade. what you're looking at here is the shoulder blade. You have two muscles sitting on the shoulder blade. This is your chuck tender, which is also referred to as the supraspinatus or the palomita. On the other side, you have your flat irons, one of my favorite cuts, the infraspinatus, or also referred to as paleta. So we have this ridge here that's all bone. We're gonna follow that with the tip of the knife and just trace it. Trace it, trace it, trace it all the way down. All right, so what we're left here is your palomita or your chuck tender. We have your flat iron or paleta. We have your chuck underblade and the teres major. Alright, so now we're going to remove your shoulder clod, or also referred to as your clod heart. This is where you get those wonderful ranch steaks that you guys probably have never tried, but exceptional. Alright guys, so now I'm going to trim out our foreshank, also known as our brazuelo or chamorro. And the way you can tell where the joint is to move it. You see where the movement is? So that's how you know where we got to cut. Nice. Alright guys, now we're going to go over all these pieces. Over here, you got your chuck underblade roast. This is where you get your Denver steaks or your boneless short ribs. Over here, you got your clod heart. This is where we get your ranch steaks. This is your chuck tender. You can do this bad boy as a roast, but it's pretty tough. Typically, this bad boy just goes in stew meat. This right here, one of my favorites, the flat iron. Exceptional in taste and flavor. Has a thick piece of sinew that runs down the middle. It's actually the ligament that connects to the elbow. As you can see, it does have a slight marbling, but all this needs to be cleaned off, and this bone skin right here, because obviously it's not good eating. Teres major. Not a bad cut, isn't necessarily tender, but I would definitely do this for stew. This right here, this is what I would refer to as a butcher's cut, the chuck underblade steak. Wonderful for grilling or searing on a pan. And then we have our shanks, or in Spanish, the chamorros, one of my favorite slow cooking dishes. Also referred to as the osabuco. And yes, the king of barbecue, brisket. This bad boy, low and slow for a couple hours, always gives a wonderful result. And now, our chuck eye. Definitely my go-to if I'm not in the mood for ribeye, besides the flat irons, obviously. You can get chuck eye steaks, or you can cook this as a roast and it comes out very tender. And yes, your chuck short ribs. You rarely see these on the market. You usually get the short ribs that come from the rib section, but just as tender and just as wonderful. So with that guys, thanks for watching. Please do not hesitate to like, comment, or share, or subscribe. And if you come through, say hi. It's nice to meet everyone. Take care of each other, be good to each other, and cheers.